Okay, right. Good afternoon.
Hello.
We're back again. We're going to keep plodding on until somebody tells us to stop.
Probably, or we have no views on the account,
Yeah.
and we go like, "Oh, is actually anyone listening?"
Absolutely. Cool. Right. So I think this afternoon we'll have a chat a little bit about temperature and weather. I think, which is slightly ironic, I suppose, but we'll have to talk about it.
Here, this is recorded on the hottest day
of the year. Absolutely.
We're both free.
Yeah. It's the only time we get a chance because we've had to postpone lessons and stuff like that. So it gives us an opportunity to get an episode recorded as well, which is good.
Yeah. Go on.
So yeah, I was just going to sort of, I suppose, open a little bit where I've had a couple of sort of questions, I suppose, from people asking why we postpone our lessons, or most trainers postpone their lessons when the weather is so hot like it is now, yet they still go out and compete on a weekend, even though the temperatures are still as hot as they would be if you're doing a lesson. So I drew basically I suppose that's for what your views on there, and then we'll go from there, see what that. So obviously you've cancelled lessons this week and a few lessons over
yes, well, yeah, yes and no. So I think firstly, one of the first things I said to you as you came on, wasn't it? I was actually a bit shocked today at how hot it was. Okay, yeah. So that's number one. And I know everyone said, oh yeah, it's going to be 39, 40, but it's amazing how those extra few degrees, how they feel. I've switched the fan off because I felt like my fan was circulating hot air and it actually felt hot. So yes. So okay, yes. So agility lessons definitely have been cancelled today. Firstly, because it's my agility lessons are outside, so you can't get out of the sun. Somebody kind of, I don't think today and tomorrow is going to be up for question, is it? I think it's actually really obvious, but I think at the weekend people were saying, and the weekend coming, you know, that's kind of more regular temperatures. Why would we cancel when what's the difference for competing? So from my point of view, firstly, it's people's choice. So if they decide to go to a competition, that's up to them. I am going to compete. And I think it's much different to us running 34 seconds than it is in an intense training. And also hanging around in the sun. So that's the difference for me. And the environment. So a couple of Sundays ago, I've now got a new venue, as you know. And that venue has like a wind tunnel. So there's two gaps either side. So it's very breezy. It's very high. And I know that had I been in my previous venue, I would have had to have cancelled. Whereas in this venue, I got a 2-hour workshop done. You know, we were very mindful of the dogs, but the dogs coped absolutely fine.
Yeah, I think some dogs do cope more than others, same as people. Some people have a different sort of tolerance level, I suppose, to what it, you know, to other people and other dogs. But also, I know from my own experience, especially with a couple of our dogs, like our terrier Jimmy, if we don't move him, he would lie in the sun all day. He's not very sensible. So we do have to take some responsibility for that sometimes and go, right, come on, you've got to come in now, you know, cool him down a little bit, put him in the shade or whatever, or, you know, back into his, you know, we've got a separate dog room in our house, which is nice and cool. So we just sort of like, we can put them there, so we know that they're going to be cool in that all day. So we do have to take a bit of responsibility. But on the other side of that, to a certain extent, if he's not really that bothered about being out there too much, then if that's where he chooses to go on a day, some of our other dogs will take themselves off, hide behind the sofa, or, you know, under the curtains or whatever, out of the way, you know, through their own choice.
I've had to, Nairobi's gone in a crate, she's got a fan on, but just because she couldn't settle and she was being bothered by the other dogs. But to be fair, at competitions, I'm more concerned, like from a camping point of view, in the fact you can't get out. I mean, again, I think the dogs cope better than us because I don't know about you, but my van's insulated, so you know, they're in the van, they're quite cool.
You got the sheets on and stuff like that, making sure it's cool.
And you make sure the windows have got a nice breeze going through, whereas I was like, oh god, I was roasted, you know. But yeah, I think it is environment, and I think again, I know we keep harping on about this, but it's media centralization. It drives me, and it must drive everybody up the wall. And I was thinking about this before we came on air, actually, and you think about media and how they dramatize everything, and that's their job, but they use certain impactful words, don't they? And social media does the same thing. So are we just like fed by media to say, like, you know, well, we don't just say it's hot. They'll go like, well, it's as hot as the Sahara Desert. And
or it's dangerously hot.
There's a risk of life, and we're all responsible people, Stuart. Everybody.
Well, most of us. You'd like to think so. But yeah, there's a certain amount. I think you have to let people take responsibility for themselves. The only thing is I look at is that we're also talking about animals. We're talking about dogs in general. And I think sometimes some people do need to have that little bit more advice thrown at them a little bit to say, right, you do need to be a bit more mindful about what you're doing.
It's education as a trainer, isn't it? Particularly for our beginners. I don't think the temperatures that we've got today and tomorrow, I don't think we should discuss, because I just don't say I've taken a decision today. My online classes, so my obedience classes, I was sitting on the fence until last night. They're in a nice field, they're cool, and it's at 8:30 at night. So I was like, right, okay, I'm going to take a decision last night. I realised that it wasn't just the field. It was the fact that those dogs and us had been in the heat all day. People would have to put them in their cars to get there. So I thought, right, okay, I'll go online. As the day has gone on today, and I can't find a cool place in my house. So, you know, my dogs had struggled to do a 45-minute online training session. So we're going to do a troubleshooting session without dogs, which is we did a lot of during COVID, and it was really, really useful. So, so I think that, and actually I'm thinking if I do have to cancel, so generally from an outside point of view, because I have got some shades at my field, if it's my 26 is my go-to, which is hotter than it used to be, because I think we've got to move with the times
a little bit. And like you say, as long as you can prepare things and prepare people and make sure there is, you know, there's certain areas and things set up to keeping things comfortable, then I mean, I don't see a big issue.
Whether it's 26 at like 10 o'clock in the morning, that's a bit different, but you know, if it's like midday sun, then that's different as well, isn't it? And every single field would be different, Stuart, and I think that's what makes it.
So I know that from my field's point of view, I wouldn't train to a certain point in my, because I have nothing, no shade, no, I have no running water, no electricity or anything in my field. So for me, it's like I have to make that decision quite early.
So when you wake up in the morning, do you feel, or do you go by a temperature?
So I depend on what I obviously we walk the dogs first thing in the morning, so I see what we like when we're walking the dogs, see how it's faring up at that point, and then I usually then go through the first morning sessions training wise, and I message everybody in the morning to say, like, keep an eye on your messages, because I may be messaging you to say that we're cancelling. And then I go to my field, I do a session, 1 or 2 sessions with people first thing in the morning. And then if I get to the point where I go, right, this is what, you know, more than what we should be able to take, then I'll just message everybody and say, like, we know we're postponed this week. I think everybody's you know, everybody's like,
I've had a problem. You know, I think people have, because sometimes I think some people's tolerance levels are lower of the cold, of extreme weathers. It's not just about
cold as well. I've cancelled in the cold before.
I only cancel if it's icy. But at the end of the day, the dog's welfare is our. I always go with, like, would I train my dog? Would I train my dog?
And that's what I've always said to all of the people that I train. If the conditions, whether that be temperature, ground, you know, venue, whatever that is, if it's somewhere that I wouldn't, or something that I wouldn't train my dog in, then I wouldn't expect anybody else to train there or do
exactly.
that either, so.
And generally when we're training dogs, we're doing lots of repetition.
Yeah.
So that makes it very, very different, doesn't it? You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I actually, I don't know what you're thinking, but I'm actually thinking this is great climatization for Kippy.
Yeah. I mean, we got, you know, Italy in 4 weeks now, I think.
4
from
weeks.
this one, yeah. So, you know, so I know it's going to be warm. And obviously, again, we're only talking 30-40 seconds 2 or 3 times a day, which is okay.
Yeah.
But during the daytime, you know, we've got to try and
treat them cooler, which is much harder when you're out in the open, isn't it? This I think is actually quite good preparation for those dogs. But also, you know, that's kind of, you know, something that we choose to do with our dogs, so we have to take into consideration. But yeah, sometimes I don't know about you, I've got lovely clients, I have really got lovely clients, but sometimes you make a decision and you just, do you ever just hide your phone? You're like, oh God.
I mean, I've made decisions.
I hate it when you make a bad decision.
I've made that decision in the last week or so where I've actually cancelled earlier on. I said, right, it's too hot, we're not doing anything. And then the evening it rained. Yeah. And everybody, you know, or it's gone cooler and everybody sat at home and I'm like, sorry.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so hard. And you know, you're losing money. You don't want to lose that money. You know, for me, I try and daytime agility classes, I'll try and cancel in advance so that I can put some pet dog stuff in.
Yeah.
So that I am still earning money. Because obviously, you know, like you, we've got bills to pay for and everything else. And
I mean, having a little bit of extra time off, though, in fairness, I try and organise, you know, do a bit more admin, and it gives me chance.
Yeah, I always
sit down and sort things out that I don't normally get chance.
It's like the first thing we've done today is jump on and do an extra couple of recordings.
And also, I think with the weather as well, going back to that, we have to take into consideration that where people actually live. So I know from my training point of view, I have people that come from quite far afield sometimes for different workshops and sessions and whatever, and I might be cancelling here and they're only an hour or so down the road and they're sat there going, wow, it's grey and
was it raining on the weekend, Stuart? Did you see was it? Yeah. I saw the social media page, I was like, wow.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what we don't, I think some people don't take that into consideration, that just because it's red hot where you are doesn't necessarily mean it's the same an hour or so up the road.
No,
things change quite rapidly.
Yeah, exactly that. And the undulations of the countryside, and you know, so I know if I go back to where I used to live, which is like literally 20 minutes, no more than 20 minutes. I lived in the centre or the corner, like a corner, quite highly populated area, and it was roasting. Whereas here, I'm by a river. I've got it is a warm breeze. It's a weird breeze, but you know, it's I've got a breeze coming through, and there's lots more trees around, and it's a lot fresher feeling than in concrete buildings about. So I think it is tough. And the other, looking at it from a technical point of view, is you don't really want to reward. We want to reward and motivate our dogs, and if they're struggling in the heat, so it's also, even if, I don't know about you, but even if you've got a class on and you say, right, okay, I'm going to run that class, if people know the dogs well and they're like, well, my dog's not going to cope with that, then that's also a decision that they take, isn't it?
Absolutely. They have to do that. A little bit of responsibility for them. If I carry on to train and they decide not to, that's entirely up to them. That's, you know, decision that they make. But and also we have to think about people as well, I think. So like for me, from a trainer's point of view, sometimes if it is hot and we've been out most of the day, you know, I mean, I know we choose to, it's our job, it's what we do, but it comes,
that job's quite glamorous, isn't it? It's like,
but it comes to like 5-6 o'clock in the evening and I'm like, I've got 2 hours left and I'm really struggling with this, you know. And so sometimes even, and the people turn up, they've been at work all day, maybe in an office with no aircon or whatever, or you know, and they get home from work and go, I don't know whether I can make it to the lesson tonight. You know, you've got to take people into consideration as well. So
I feel guilty taking people's money if I'm not at my best. So before now, you know, if I could like work for like 3 or 4, I tend not to, but if I'm doing privates, because I find them quite intense and I give it my all, I won't book any more than 4 hours back to back, and then I give myself a break, because I don't. It's like, oh God, I'm sick of it now, and that fifth person isn't getting the best of you. Then are they?
Yeah, I agree. I have. I generally have 30-minute gaps in between all my lessons during the day.
Do you?
Yeah, I never do back to backs. Yeah, I don't do back to backs. But then I just put more in, if that makes sense. I do more sessions. So just having half an hour gaps in between is enough for me to sort of break, and then usually have a bit of a longer gap between my daytime one-to-ones, as it was, before my evening groups.
I usually do 15 minutes with my privates.
Yeah.
Usually enough.
I mean, got to have some sort of break. And also, sometimes with me, if I'm taking my own dogs to do some training at a certain point, I have to make sure that I give them a run out the van and stuff as well.
I do put that in my diary. But and you know, if you think like training weeds, and I think it's also a consideration the standard of dog, isn't it? Because I wouldn't want to train beginners, because beginners don't get what we're doing, and if you train, I used to have a thing that I never started beginner agility groups in the winter, because all you do is all you do is upset people, because they're standing around in the freezing cold, and the dogs are getting cold and bored, and we're trying to get them over one jump and a tunnel in the freezing cold, and that could actually put someone off for life, couldn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So I think, I mean, I suppose it's turning into a bit of a woe is us of our agility training stuff in these temperatures and stuff, where we chose to do this job. But I mean, we do take trying to make it as as comfortable as possible for everybody, whether that be us and the the people we're teaching, or the dogs or whatever. We have to try and do a little bit. But I also, like you said at the very beginning, some people have to take a little bit of responsibility for themselves.
Yeah, I think most people do. And again, I find myself drawn to social media. I saw a couple of posts at the weekends where people were like, for God's sake, shut up.
I mean, there was some people being made feel really, I mean, some people didn't go to a show, not because they didn't want to go to the show, but because somebody made them feel guilty about going.
Exactly. And how often does that happen with social media? Somebody won't do something just because they're frightened what somebody else might say on social media.
Most of the shows out there this weekend are well-established, experienced show organisers, event organisers, that know exactly what they're doing in certain, so they would organise these things properly to make sure everything was in order.
The weatherman's role, I've already, so I've got camping, but I'm going to agility club. I've got camping boots. I'm really lucky in the fact that it's an hour away from me, and we've already kind of made the decision that if the temperatures are, the problem is when it's been this hot, it takes a long time for the temperatures to fall, doesn't it? So what would normally be a straightforward 26, actually the humidity's built up, the ground's hot, everything else is hot, etc., so it's building up. So if it's kind of like anything like this, I would be more concerned about camping than I would about getting in the van. So if I decided, right, okay, it's too hot to camp, but I'm going to day trip, my van's so cool, it's insulated,
and then you can get home and let the dogs chill out in their own house. And
exactly that, rather than thinking, in fact, to be fair, probably the dogs would cope better than me. It would be me in the van going like, oh
it's like that in the caravan. It's like it's like a tin shed. It's just an absolute nightmare. It doesn't matter how many windows you open, it never actually cools down enough.
So let's ask a question, right? Just out of interest, we'll put us both on the spot here, right? So today, there's a champ class an hour away.
Yeah.
What would you do?
There's a champ class an hour away.
That you'd booked into and that you really wanted champ. Or whatever it was you were chasing. I think international is different. I think, we prepare ourselves for that. But today, there's a champ class that you've been chasing, or a qualifier that you've been chasing for a long time. It's only an hour away. Would you go and run your dog?
I probably wouldn't, but more for my benefit than the dog's benefit, because I don't like this heat personally. So I wouldn't go, because I know that I wouldn't be doing my dog justice. I wouldn't be doing it. I don't think Riggs would bother too much. for the sake of 2, maybe 3 runs?
I think I would take things into consideration, if I'm completely honest.
And it would be, yeah, I suppose it would be where the venue is, what venue it is,
where the venue is, and what time of my day my run was.
Yeah. But I probably wouldn't, from my own point of view, more than the dogs.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's too. I don't like it. Like, we've got, in the garden here, we've got a paddling pool in the garden.
I don't like it. Yeah,
but I mean, Becky's been sat out there at lunchtime in the paddling pool, just having a lunch break, whatever. But even standing in the paddling pool, it's still too hot outside for me.
Okay, so would you have gone if you had to go for an important run this morning, which was only a 1-minute run, if you had to run to the shops at 10 o'clock this morning, would you have gone?
Depends what I'm going to the shop for. Depends on how important it is. Is it milk for my tea? If it's milk for my tea, then yeah, I'm going.
Yeah, so you've got to run at 10 o'clock in the morning because like, my point is, okay, and I'm going to get lynched. I know I'm going to get lynched. But my point is after 30, would you suffer, like, if you're fit and healthy, would you suffer from heat exhaustion at 10 o'clock in the morning for running a 30-second run?
I suppose you have to go technically looking at things. For the majority of
you're going to do in Italy.
I know, but what I'm saying is, if you're already prepared for that, so like this weekend, I did my my Spartan race, obstacle race I did yesterday, okay? It was 30 degrees, 28, 30 degrees in the middle of the field. Now, I knew I was going to be out there for an hour at the least, running and climbing over things and doing whatever else it was. So the day before, I made sure that I just drank water all day. And in the morning, just drank water, got myself prepared, made sure I ate the right foods that needed to be eaten and whatever. And even though it's technically only a fun run as it was, I made sure that I was prepared for everything. Unfortunately, on the run, they have water stations, and some of the obstacles were going underwater and stuff as well. So I had chance to get in water and whatever. So I knew that was going to happen at some point. So I think it's preparation. And I think for a lot of us doing agility, 90%, I mean, it's generalization really, is a lot of people don't do that on a regular basis. I think
90% is a bit harsh.
So I don't think people do it on a regular enough basis. Like, and this sounds like, again, I think it's too general. But as a population, do we look after ourselves enough to cope with that? Fitness and health wise.
Yeah, again, yeah. And the
so
thing
I know, like, for me to go for a run at 10 o'clock in the morning for a minute or two, compared to somebody else, is completely different, because somebody else might not be prepared. I've been running for a few years, and in different temperatures, different weather, different whatever, different terrains, whatever. So for me, it's not a massive thing, and I think that goes the same with the dogs.
Well, and the thing is we, and I am, I'm playing devil's advocate as always, because if I just sit and go, yeah, it's too hot, I'm not going to work more on my dog, then but we have to make a decision for our dogs.
Yes. And what I wouldn't be doing though today is taking my dog for a lunchtime walk around the park or around the town. That's the difference.
I think I would have. So if I had to run today, so like in Italy, I am so lucky. I've looked at my running order. I've got 2 early morning running orders.
Yeah.
So I am quite lucky, but we will be doing everything to prepare our dogs. We've got private conversations going on about drinks that we can give our dogs and ourselves, haven't we?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And to be honest, I'm more concerned about the travelling than I, but having done it, I know that it's all fine, and we've all got it sussed. But
I mean, the coach is air conditioned and all the bits and pieces.
Yeah, we won't want to get off the page.
No. But those, again, that's what I'm saying. Those are the decisions that we make, even like say internationally. Yes, it's going to be hot, whatever, but we are training and preparing ourselves and our dogs for those situations.
And all joking aside, I was sitting there while we're thinking I wouldn't go to Champ today. If I'd have had a run that was an hour away at 9 o'clock this morning, that's probably different. I probably would have.
So if your Olympia qualifier was at 9 o'clock, you knew it was going to be first thing in the morning. you've only
Yeah.
got one run to concentrate on.
Yeah, I
It
did
would-
it at, where did I come? Fifth. Where did I
Fifth.
come fifth the other day? Fifth. I had to get in the top 3 and I came fifth. The other day, where was I? I don't know. RVA.
Yeah.
RVA. It was hot. It was really hot. It was 26, 27.
Yeah.
I think if that run, I struggled. Champ, they did really, I know we've spoken about this already, but they did really well to make everybody cool and everything.
Yeah.
And the dogs did fine, but yeah, I don't think I would have done today.
No, I think that's just
No, I wouldn't.
But it's just that, like I say, I think the difference is how much preparation you've done and how I suppose it's
You should have ran your dogs today. That's the message we should.
I don't think running today would be today and tomorrow if the temperatures are. But then on saying that, I've just seen on social media there's somebody that lives approximately an hour away from us, not even an hour away from us, and she just said it's raining.
Yeah, but that doesn't. Yeah, exactly.
So I'm not saying that it's going to be cooler, but that would be an opportunity for some people.
Would that
It's raining, I'm going out.
Would that be a game changer?
Exactly. So yeah, it's a bit warmer. It's still warm. It's still 28 degrees, but there's rain, so we'll go anyway.
It's different between 28 and 38, though. I can't believe what 40 feels like.
Yeah. I know, it's mad, isn't it?
Yeah. Anyway, I think we've done the weather. Stuart.
Yeah, we've done the weather. We've done the weather one for now. It was worth doing.
Bye, everybody.
Right.
That's it. Everyone's
See you later.
done.
We're done.
Bye.